Hey, party people. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are here to talk about the NAR settlement. Today is the day. It is August 1st. It is Thursday, and the rules have changed. Real estate has changed as of today in the state of New Jersey. We are coming to bring this webinar to you just because, as our experience as realtors in the field, we are a part of Durability Real Estate. As our experience as realtors in the field, we're finding that our customers and clients are having a hard time navigating through all of these new changes. We as realtors have been doing a very good job handling the changes as they've come. And we're here to give you guys all the updates, all of the updates that we can so that you all are informed so that you guys can participate in the real estate market. Yes, things have changed, but it does not mean that you can't transact. And we want to make sure that you understand that this is going to affect you. You as a buyer, you as a seller, you as a renter, you as a landlord, you as an investor. It affects everyone. Realtors, lenders, title companies, you name it. These changes are going to touch everyone in the industry in some way, shape, or form. There are some agents that really don't know what's happening right now and may be confused. There are some brokerages that are trying to figure things out. We're all figuring this out because these changes just literally happened as of today. Now, the state does have a mandated law that was put in place, and we can share that link with you guys so that you can kind of read on what New Jersey has stated and implemented in place. But we really wanted to take this time to go over what those changes are, how they're going to affect you, and to allow you to ask us any questions that come up. So feel free to drop the questions in the chat or join us on our webinar so that we can answer any questions that you have. My name is Jasmine. I'm also a realtor and part of this team. And I have Deja here with me and Pruvi. You guys want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Deja Bailey. I work as a real estate agent. I specialize with buyers and tenants, but I also help with project management and property management as well. I do want to also preface this meeting or webinar with it's okay for things to change. This is not the first big change that has happened in real estate. So with change comes some uncomfortability, but all you need to do is get all the information you can. And so that's what we're trying to do so we can make this transition as smooth as possible. Pruvi, talk about yourself.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. My name is Pruvi Pierre. I am a real estate agent with the Durability Real Estate team, and I specialize in listings. I work with buyers as well, but listings is my specialty. If you're looking to get top dollar for your home that you're trying to sell and you want someone who can not only negotiate on your behalf, but put in strategies into place so that you can get the number that you're actually looking for, I'm your girl. And yes, today is the day, that things have changed. But with everything, change is inevitable. If you're not changing, something is wrong, so it is a change, but it's something that everyone is gonna adjust to. We will adjust to. That's why we're doing it live today, so that we can bring value to you guys, because we've been preparing for this long before this day has come. So we've come together because we are the perfect people to, conversate with and ask questions to, because we've already been in preparation for this. So I'm excited for today.
Awesome. Awesome. So we are going to start the meeting and explain a little bit what was going on or why this settlement was even in place to begin with. So as you know, in all states, Jasmine, I believe it's all states, it is illegal to price fix.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Are you going to elaborate?
No, yes, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it is illegal to price fix. And with the NAR settlement, the agreement is now that we cannot market on the MLS with the payment to a competing broker or the broker that is bringing a buyer and or a tenant to us. We cannot market what that compensation is because the state, the national The national government felt like that was a form of price fixing. So to remove that issue, they are removing that option from all advertisements on the MLS or off the MLS. Any advertisement, it cannot be there what we are offering to a buyer or tenant's agent. So that is what the settlement is in layman's terms and the simplest form that I can put it. Does anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. You're right. It just means that it's not that we're not cooperating with other brokers. It is that we are not compensating other brokers. And this is not something that's specific to one brokerage or another. This is specific to everyone in the United States eventually as of August 17th, but in the state of New Jersey as of today. So it just means that we're not sharing compensation. And that just is exactly what Deja explained. That's exactly what it looks like. It just means that the seller's agent cannot offer a compensation for the buyer's agent during the transaction, because that is what they're considering compensating for both brokers. The other thing that I think comes up when we think about this is how is it going to affect, which side of the transaction you're on? What does it look like for you to actually go through something like this? And what other things kind of come up? We'll talk through a lot of that today because we definitely want to get ahead of this. We don't see this being talked about in the media a lot. We're not seeing it being talked about outside of our realtor circles. And I think it's really important that folks not only tap into some of these conversations, right? Because I think the effects of these are going to change over time. Obviously, things will level out as time goes on, but it's very new. And we want to kind of make sure that you all are prepared and you're able to put your best foot forward in these markets, especially as things change during the end of the year and going into 2025 as well, because it doesn't seem like these changes are going to leave anytime soon. This is definitely something that's going to be permanent and continue to evolve. I think that's what we're looking at this point.
Right. And just to add to that, I feel like we should probably explain a little deeper of, yes, it's changed, but I don't think a lot of buyers and sellers kind of have a better idea of how the agent compensation works. But for buyers, it's just like they're kind of in a gray area of how that portion works. Before today, that wasn't really their responsibility. So it wasn't really a conversation had with the buyers that were purchasing property. So for the buyers out there, what was previously happening was a seller was pretty much paying, not pretty much, the seller was paying the agent that was representing you. You did not have to pay the agent who was helping you find a home. That was the seller. So the seller offers a listing agent a certain percentage of the purchase price of the property. And then the listing agent would then turn around and split their commission with the buyer's agent who would be representing the buyer. So before today, if you were a buyer and you were looking for a property, you did not have, in most cases, you did not have to worry about heavy on the most cases.
Yeah.
In most cases, you did not have to worry about paying the buyer's agent because the compensation was already coming from the seller. However, today moving forward, and this is what we're going to talk about, that is going to change. All buyers now will be responsible for making sure that the agent that is representing them will get paid. And we're going to get into, because I know a lot of people are like, what? Another payment on top of the down payment, on top of the closing costs? We definitely know exactly how you feel. And we definitely want to go over today how, we can alleviate some of that burden and some options on what we can do to lighten the burden on you when you're purchasing a home.
Right. So let's just get right into it. I think we should stack. So we'll start at tenants, go buyers, and then go sellers. Y'all good with that?
Yes.
Okay. So
that's absolutely fine.
Okay, perfect. So because I work with a lot of tenants, I will do this portion. So typically when I am, getting a rental listing from a landlord, I typically tell them, I'm able to list this property and, we can negotiate it so that the tenant pays the commission for, the rental. You won't have to pay me on this transaction. That is no longer going to be the case. Okay. The landlord is going to have to pay their listing agent, and the tenant that comes along, if another agent brings that tenant will be responsible for paying their agent. Um, Also, not really a big change for tenants, because I know a lot of tenants are used to having to pay the 1.5% security deposit, the first month rent, and the broker fee. So that's nothing new for the tenant. It might ruffle some landlords' feathers because they typically want this fee covered. But again, commission is negotiable, guys. That is something we are going to reiterate throughout this webinar. Commission is negotiable. So if it comes to the point that, the rental listing has been sitting on the market for a while, and the landlord says, okay, at this point, I'm willing to help the tenant and negotiate, or maybe they find a tenant that they really like, they check all the boxes, but paying that commission is going to be, a struggle for them. That seller can say, I don't mind helping with a portion of their commission to help pay the agent that bought them. So it's negotiable. However, as an agent, I cannot offer that or have that discussion with that landlord, to say, hey, you should pay this to the other buyer's broker, to the other broker. That is not my responsibility. I am not able to do that any longer. But that is an option. Same thing for, a tenant. The tenant really wants the rental, and there are multiple applications in, and to be more, strategic and more competitive with their application, they negotiate in their application that they will pay my fee. That is absolutely something that can be negotiated, because that's how commissions work. They are negotiated. So those are the main differences with tenancy in New Jersey. Like I said, not really a groundbreaker for tenants, because a lot of places in North Jersey specifically, tenants do tend to pay the broker fee, but it might be a little shaky on telling your landlord that they're going to have to pay a fee. And again, there's no set fee. That fee is negotiable. So be ready to have those conversations and understand that at the end of the day, the fee is negotiable. It's not, oh, it's always 1 month. It's negotiable. Keep that in mind. All right. Anybody want to add on, elaborate? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you hit it right on the nail.
Okay. Okay, good. Also, guys, don't forget, you can drop any questions that you have in the chat or in the live on Facebook. Please, if you have any questions and you want us to elaborate more on anything, just let us know and we will, okay?
Absolutely. We are live on Facebook, Instagram. If you want to jump in on Zoom, we're everywhere. So feel free to jump in and drop your questions. We're here to help, and we're definitely doing this because we want you all to be informed. We're making these we're doing transactions every day, and we're dealing with folks who are finding this stuff out while they're in the transaction. Some people when it's close to being done, and some people when it's just beginning. And so it's really important that you all take these conversations really seriously and answer and ask any questions that you have. There are no crazy questions here. Believe me, realtors have the same questions too. And we're all figuring this out as we go, considering the law just again passed, literally just passed today. And I'm just gonna go ahead and reset the room really briefly because we do have new folks on all of our platforms. You all, we are here to have this conversation about the NAR settlement. We're doing this because we're doing transactions every day, and we're finding that our clients and customers and even some of our realtor friends are having trouble understanding what's going on, and we all need to be in conversation about what's happening here, because it does impact you if you're a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, investor. It doesn't matter. It touches everyone, including your title and your lending officers. We're all going to be impacted by this in some way, shape, or form. We may not have to deal with it right away, but it is something that's going to impact you. So if you do have questions, please do drop those in the chat and continue to check in with us. And I have also added our Instagrams on the screen. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all. We definitely are here to help you. Deja just went over what that experience would look like for tenants and landlords. Pruvi, let me know if you want to go next, if you want to touch on what it looks like for sellers, and then I can go in and close it with the buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for folks that are joining, like, what is a NAR settlement? The NAR is the National Association of Realtors. They are basically the overseers of the way we deal with. I'm also a real estate mom, so
yes, ma'am. Yes, we have our future agents in the room. Future investors.
This is what it's like to be a realtor and a mom. It doesn't stop all 24/7 days a week. So pretty much as a seller, it does not change much for you. Because as I stated in the beginning, the seller covered the compensation for the listing agent regardless. Now, what is changing is that you don't necessarily have to cover for the buyer's agent. And when I say necessarily, I mean that the buyer can request from the seller via a concession, meaning they're trying to make a deal with you. They can say, all right, you give me 1 second, y'all, because I don't want y'all to miss any of this. Let me just.
It's all right, because Pruvi is literally finna give y'all all the gems. So I'm gonna go ahead, okay? Because baby, she got them all. I'm gonna go ahead and go over the buyers really quick, and then we'll go ahead and tune back into Pruvi. For the buyers, it's a little bit similar to the tenants, right? So you're in a position that kind of changes the scope of how you actually operate in real estate. It used to be that as a buyer, you could be a customer or a client. And what I mean by that is you don't know the person that's taking you to go buy a house, but you guys are going to have this conversation on the way to a showing. You guys are going to look at the house. You're going to decide whether or not that's something you actually want to move forward with. That can no longer happen. That is what has changed for us. I like to tell my clients, you need to be both qualified and represented in order for us to move forward. That means that you need to actually have gone to a lender and been financially qualified for you to be able to go to the house that you're going to go see. That's also important for the sellers because they want to know that the people that are coming to their house are financially qualified and that they're serious, right? And that we don't have any kind of craziness going on. And then also you want to be mindful that you want to be represented. And so that's kind of what has changed. And represented means that you have signed an agreement with a real estate agent saying that they're going to represent you if you decide to put an offer in on the house that they're showing you. Now, there are different ways that we can do this. You have designated agency, which doesn't really matter. The terms don't matter, but I'm just explaining in general, which means that, we're just going to represent you for that specific transaction or that specific house or that specific thing. Right? Or you can just have an exclusive agreement. Just saying, that's my realtor. I like them. I rock with them. They're gonna take me to the promised land. We're gonna go to closing, but this is gonna be my person. Like, I'm really cool with them. And we want you to have that kind of relationship. Not only because we spend a lot of time as buyers agents driving around, like there's a lot of stuff that we do that goes into the transaction that we don't necessarily get compensated for, right? Like that's just what we do. And we don't necessarily get paid until the deal actually closes. Now, these are some of the things that kind of changed with this NAR settlement, right? Now agents have the ability to have retainers. So if you did want to have an agent that you just had on call and you're the type of person that wants to buy properties all the time, you could do that. You can have an arrangement with your agent, and you can just put them on retainer, and they're just always on call and always accessible to you per the terms that you guys discussed. But then the other option is for you to just, if you're just like, this is a one-time thing, I just flew in from somewhere, I need to be able to see this house because I'm trying to make a deal or whatever. I mostly work with investors, so that might happen, right? That's like a one-time agreement. We can help you with that as well. And the most common one is the exclusive buyer agency agreement, right? And that's just saying, I'm going to work with this person for a certain amount of time until I get this house that I'm really desired for, and I'm going to work with that one person. What has changed with that is that you actually have to sign that agreement before you go see a house, right? That's what has changed. That's really what has happened. Normally, you can kind of feel each other out first. You guys are like dating when you're going on a showing. We need to be a little bit earlier on. We need to have that date before you guys come into the property, because now that you're on the property, like now we're in transaction territory, right? This is a little bit different when it comes to open houses. And with open houses, that also has changed. So now when you're going into a property, you're basically talking to whoever's there as if they were the seller's agent. But if you were looking for representation, if you wanted to use the person that was there, they could represent you as a buyer's agent, but you have to let them know that. You as a buyer, you actually have to communicate that. Because them as the other agent, they can't sway you in any way. They can't give you any information that they are not legally obligated to give you. But as long as you say, I would like you to represent me, or I'm open to working with you, or whatever that conversation, however it turns out, and whatever language suits you, it's really important that you say those words so that agent can help you. And so those are the kind of things that have changed. One is that you need to be both represented and qualified before, prefer for you to be represented and qualified before you go show a home. You have to sign these agreements, right? We had to sign them anyway. There's no difference there. These are not new agreements. It just has to happen sooner, and sometimes sooner than what you're really comfortable with, because you feel like you may not know someone. But one of the things that we do at Daryl Bailey Real Estate is we do consultations. So we can have a Zoom chat, we can have a phone call. It's totally fine. You can come into our office, have a sit down with us, just so that you can get a feel for how we do business. Because we do work as a team, and that's really, really important. The work that we're able to do is sometimes more than what a single agent can do by themselves. So those are some of the things that have changed for buyers, and obviously more will come out as we continue to have this discussion, but that's just kind of like a kind of lay of the land a little bit. Go ahead, Deja.
Right. So I totally agree with you when you say most people don't want to sign it because they feel like, that's like, I met someone yesterday, next week we're getting married, they
Right.
propose. So it does feel like a big commitment, but I do want to add, at any point in the transaction or in that process of you purchasing a home, if you feel like the duties of your agent is not performing the duties as you see fit, you can terminate that agreement. Send an email, copy the agent, just put it in writing, and you're clear.
That's
so
it.
Don't feel like it's the end all be all, like, oh my gosh, I'm tied down, especially if it's someone, like I said, that's not doing their job.
Absolutely.
I get it. Like, I totally understand. I have had clients that it's about to expire, and they're like, extend the date. So, it goes both ways. The date is not the end all be all. It can be extended. And if for any reason, like I said, your agent is not performing, or maybe it really is not a good fit, just put it in writing, and you will be scot-free. You will be okay. I promise. I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things. A determination is on both sides, right? Both the agent can say, I don't think this is working out, and the client can say, you know what, I'm not sure about this, and just send an email. I just don't want to work with you anymore. Cool. You can say it in a nicer way, but like, that's really it in a nutshell. It just requires an agreement to terminate a relationship. Absolutely. And back to Pruvi, give us all the spiel on the sellers.
Sorry about that, guys. But yes, for the sellers, I'll start from the beginning. As I was saying, this doesn't change much for the seller in regards to funds, because the seller, as I mentioned in the beginning, was already paying both the listing agent and the buyer's agent. So it will still continue in regards to sellers paying the listing agent. That is not going to change. However, in the way that the buyer gets compensated in the deal will change. So as I mentioned before, the buyer may request their buyer's agent to make a concession. What is a concession? A concession is a proposal to make a deal. So I give you this if you give me that. That is what a concession is for those who don't know the term. So a concession may be, okay, the seller is looking for $500,000 for the property. The buyer may have the buyer's agent say, I'll give you $510,000, and the $10,000 goes to the buyer's agent. So the seller will still get their $500,000 that they're looking for, and the $10,000 will go to the buyer's agent. Well, Provy, that sounds like I'm still paying the buyer's agent. Absolutely not. This money will be actually coming from the buyer, as this will be coming from their loan. So you'll still be getting the money that you're requesting, and technically the buyer is still paying the buyer's agent. They're just using the loan as a means of payment to the buyer's agent through the seller. So you're just like a middleman saying, okay, bank, I'm going to take it from the bank and I'm going to give it to the buyer's agent. So it doesn't affect the seller at all in any way, shape, or form. You're still getting what you would like, and the buyer's agent is going to get what they like, and everybody can walk away happy. So that's definitely one of the ways that a buyer can get their buyer's agent paid. And that's basically the change that's happening for the seller. So seller, this doesn't affect you much. You're going to get your house sold, and you need to come link with me, because baby, we'll make it happen. And yes, that's pretty much it on my end, ladies.
Absolutely. I think exactly what Pruvi said is so important, especially for buyers. Something that I need to actually mention, the fees have changed, right? So when you are signing that exclusive buyer agency agreement, that is where you come in, right? On that agreement, it'll say what percentage or what number or what retainer fee you're going to pay your agent to be able to take you to closing. And that is really important. Something that you need to understand about that is if you are offering concessions for the buyer's agent, that is going to be included in your loan, and it may increase your loan amount or your monthly payment a couple of dollars. It wouldn't be drastic, right? Depending on how much your payment is, but it would be like a few dollars, maybe $10 or so per 100, depending on what your actual loan amount is and what loan term you decided to choose, 15 or 30 year, etc. So that concession is going to be added to your loan, but it only adds a couple of dollars, and that means it doesn't come out your pocket. You do also have the ability to pay that out of your pocket if you wanted to. Like, that's also an option. It doesn't have to go in your loan. It doesn't have to be included or wrapped up. You don't have to increase your payment just a little bit for that to happen. But for those of you who may see it like financially beneficial for you to do it in the other way, that's a way for you to both be able to take care of your buyer's agent fees and also get your loan and close on your house with the seller, and everybody's happy, right? And normally when we do these agreements, is something also I wanted to point out about this is that on these agreements, there will be percentages, but it's something for you to note that you want to get clarity from your agent if the percentage that's on that exclusive buyer agency is all of that is expected for you to pay or not. That needs to be clarified, right? Because a lot of times when we talk about these exclusive buyer agency agreements and they'll have a percentage on it, that just means that's the agent's total possible compensation, right? Because the seller could say they want to pay the buyer's agent. And if that's the case, then the agent should get paid. But at that point, it's not coming from you, right? And so you want to clarify what that actually looks like. What is that percentage breakdown? If it does say, let's say 3%, is 2% coming from me, or is 1% coming from me? Those are the questions that you want to ask as a buyer when you're doing these consultations in order to close. And just so that you know, every single agent has a different percentage because everybody's compensation is negotiable. And that there's no setting those standards. That's the reason why this NAR settlement has happened. We are not price fixing. We cannot do that. It is illegal. And that is the reason why the buyer is going to be responsible for the buyer's fees and the seller is going to be responsible for the seller's fees. We've just come up, not we, but the law has come up with a better way of figuring out how to craft those buyer fees into things like concessions so that they're still the buyer's responsibility and not coming out of the seller's pocket. That's exactly what the NAR settlement has kind of changed. I think one of the narratives that has been pushed is that we're price fixing, or like what's happening. We don't really understand that the NAR settlement is doing all these things. I don't want to have to pay somebody else's. You don't have to do any of that. Commission has always been and always will be negotiable. The NAR settlement had nothing to do with that in particular. What it has done though is had an effect on also what the property is going to look like when it's on the MLS. I don't know if you guys have experienced like what those differences are looking like on the MLS. So you're no longer going to have, as a buyer's agent, I'm no longer going to be able to see what that percentage or what that fee is on the MLS for a certain property. Doesn't mean that I can't take you to see that property, but that's some of the effects of these changes are going to show up in the way properties look like on things like the MLS or Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, all that jazz. So that's just something to keep in mind.
For sure. I was going to, my next question was literally going to be, how is it impacting your business? We've already talked about how we're, getting our documents signed earlier in regards to, working with buyers and tenants. Before we're placing offers, before we're going to see homes, we're getting those required documents signed. That's one big difference. But also just today, it's what we're 9-10 hours into the day. I have gotten over 20 phone calls today in regard to our listings. Is the seller paying commission? Is the seller paying commission? My phone has been blowing up all day, guys. So that's another big difference that, just from yesterday to today. I don't usually get a lot of calls from agents. They typically send emails, but they're like calling. It seems like a little panic. And I'm like, let me just, again, I cannot say that I'm offering you a commission. You know what I'm saying? I literally can't. I can't say that. If you want to, structure the deal, like Pruvi said, offer higher than what the seller is looking for, so you can get, your buyer that concession. That's totally something that we can discuss, but place the offer. If your offer gets accepted, again, that's something that can be negotiated in attorney review. But it is not my responsibility to go to my seller and say, hey, you're going to pay these agents or what? Like, I can't do it. And if I could, I would, guys. I would do it. Like, I would. I absolutely would. So anybody else seeing any other like significant changes inside of their business with this new settlement? I know it just started today, but I feel like a lot of people have had questions leading up to this point. So any significant changes that you've seen?
Well, for me personally, I'm having a different conversation with the sellers. I'm already prepping them in the event of, on what the offers are going to be looking like. Just so that it's like, oh, well, I'm getting an offer for 600. How come I'm not getting the whole 600? So I'm just preparing them with the change that, okay, these offers are going to come with some concessions. Like, I'm just already preparing them so that it's not a surprise and no one feels, any ill will towards what is going to be happening. I think that's very important for listing agents to do. You want to have these conversations with your sellers from the beginning so they know what they expect. You don't want surprises because people get very frazzled easily when it comes to huge amounts of money. So you just want to always make sure you prepare people, even for the buyers as well. I know it's an uncomfortable conversation for buyers agents to have as far as, signing paperwork. So we have to become very, very skilled in explaining things, you know, supporting the client so that this doesn't seem like a horrible change, because inevitably it's not. There's definitely ways to make this happen so that buyers don't feel like, oh my gosh, now I have to pay you. There's no way I can do this. It's very important for the agent to do their research, do their homework, and figure out ways to make this work for your clients. Have these important conversations with your clients, and those buyers consultations have to be on point. You want to show your value to your clients. Even listing consultations, you have to show your value from the door, because as the lady stated previously, the paperwork has to be signed initially before we would take you out, take you on a couple showings, and then once we place an offer, you can sign paperwork. But now we can't even do that anymore. So it's very important to add value. Value is very important now.
Absolutely. I think what I'm seeing now is that my buyers are calling and having questions. They're like, what does this mean? Like, how is this going to affect me? And so my first recommendation to you is to reach out so we can do a consultation, right? That is so important. One is because I need to understand what your goals are. Two, I need to understand where you are in the financing process, right? Because your financing is gonna dictate what we can and cannot do and how much house you can buy. So that's really important. Because sometimes you're looking at things on Zillow and we don't even know if you can qualify for the things that's on Zillow. And you may qualify for more, you may qualify for less, who knows? But it's not my job to assume that. I definitely want you to be able to put your best foot forward, get evaluated by a professional, which is a lender. And we have those resources. We can connect you to our lenders who are in the business and doing these deals every single day. And so that you can be in the right position at the right time. Really, when it comes to buyers, it's all about timing. And for me and the way I do business, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anyone else. It's really important for me to set you up from the beginning. So as soon as we meet, we're having a phone conversation. I will do a consultation with you. If we can't do the consultation over Zoom or anything like that, we can definitely meet somewhere and do the consultation that way. And then I can take you out right after, right? Like, this consultation does not have to be a big, scary thing. It really can just be a meeting between you and I before we go see a house, right? And we can actually sign the paperwork electronically or in person in order for us to get to that next step. Right. But it's really important that you understand like what's going to be involved. So me, when I'm working with my buyers, I want to do a consultation with you. I want to make sure you've already met with the lender and we have a pre-approval. We'll talk about what it looks like for you to work with me. We'll talk about what those fees look like and what your goal is and what your financing looks like in order for us to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And then we'll sign the paperwork and then we'll go out and see houses. That is what the process is. That's really what it is. Having a conversation, getting to know your agent. After that, you are signing paperwork or have gotten a pre-approval already. And if you haven't, you can sign the paperwork and then get introduced to a lender through one of us or anyone else, or if you know anyone, that's fine too. And then after you do that and you speak with the lender, then we'll go out and see houses. So again, your representation is in place, and also your qualifications are in place before we go see a house. That's literally all it is in order for you to go shopping. And I think one of the things I'm seeing is that folks are worried, right? And they're scared of that process. And I think that I wanted to explain that just so that you all had an idea to kind of see it does not require too much. It just requires a conversation. And even if you're scared, you really don't know, you're not sure. One is we want to be open to what you might find, right? Like when you actually go to do financing, I want you to be open to what happens or whatever they tell you, right? They're giving you a guide. Most of the lenders that we work with will give you a guide on what you need to do in order to move forward, right? It's not about where you start, it's how you finish. And it doesn't necessarily matter where you are, because we've been in the business for a long time. And we have a lot of experience, and there are things that we can probably help you with that you wouldn't even be thinking of. So it's really important that you have that conversation so that we can, and you have that relationship with your buyer's agent so that we can talk about what that looks like. And so one of the things I think I'm seeing is fear. I'm also seeing like misinformation. I'm seeing that a lot, which is why I definitely want you all to do a consultation. I definitely want you all to speak with a professional. That's the reason why we're doing this webinar, is because there's a lot of misinformation out there around this. Some because of, you know, other companies' recruitment efforts, and some of them just because people are confused and don't know. And some for people who have just been in the business for a long time and they're used to doing the things the way they want to do them, and the laws have changed as of today. We can't do those things the way we used to do them anymore, right? And that's the reason why we're doing this. And so that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of confusion. I'm seeing misinformation. I'm seeing fear. I'm seeing overwhelm about the process before you even start, which is kind of interesting to me. And then also just like a misunderstanding of like what the role of the agent is and what the role of the buyer or seller's agent is in this process. And I think those are the things that are coming up for me, some of which I can't necessarily control, right? Because we don't know what house you actually want to buy as soon as we meet. You might like the first one we see, you might like the third one we see. I don't know. And those two parties may be two different people. It may be represented by two different agents and two different sellers. And you might have two different experiences, right? And so that's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing in the field.
I definitely want to elaborate on the fear. I feel like buyers were already scared. Like purchasing a home can be a bit intimidating for some people. So definitely fear. And just like you said, the biggest part of real estate is really relationships. You know, we don't know until we know. We first have to try though. Like if you never try, you will never know. So another thing you said that was very important was coming qualified. Even if you don't come qualified, I had a client the other day, he came for his consultation, and literally I sat with him for an hour to help him do his loan application. He wasn't really tech savvy. English wasn't his first language. So we just went through, we did, you know, the loan application. Lender messaged me yesterday, like, I'm gonna have all his documents. I already have everything. I'll have the pre-approval back to you, you know, in the next 2 days. And it's like, had he never came to the office and, you know, sat down and really told me like, I sent you the documents because I don't know what I'm doing, you know, we would not have come there. His documents would have just been sitting in my email. And, you know, because I can't upload them alone, he had to make a login, you know, all of this stuff. So having an agent that's willing to do things like that with you, and most agents, they will go above and beyond, but you have to tell us what you need so we can provide that service to you, right? So definitely important to communicate with your agent, your wants, your needs, and your fears too. Like I said, we're not just agents. Sometimes we're therapists. We're not licensed therapists, but we do some therapy here and there, okay? And lastly, it's really important for you to get qualified or be in the process of being qualified, because again, you are now going to have to be responsible for some part of your agent's compensation. And that is a big you know, conversation. It's not an easy conversation, but also it's harder when you don't know your numbers. Just point blank period. You're just shooting in the dark. So I can tell you the percentage, but if you don't know your max purchase amount, you don't know how to gauge that number. So it's important. If you're pre-approved for 450 and the fee is 1%, like you can kind of gauge that number. Like, oh, it is 4,500. If it's 2%, same thing. Like you can gauge those numbers. But another thing we always say in real estate, you need to have something that you can measure. And with your pre-approval, you can measure that. You can measure that amount opposed to I should say, the percentage, or even if it's a retainer fee, you know how much to add on. Because again, you need to factor into your 3.5% or 5% or 20 or 25% down. You need to factor in inspection, appraisal, attorney fees, and 6% for your closing costs. If you don't, again, if you don't know the pre-approval number, you don't even know how to get to the 6% for your closing costs. So these numbers are important. It is very important to have that. And if you don't have it, just again, come to the consultation and we can connect you with vendors, great vendors. And we have a lot of options. So you can see who has not only the best rate, but the best payment that makes sense for you. So keep that in mind. Like Jasmine said, it's not about how you come, it's about how you finish, period. And that's my
Mic drop. That's the mic drop right there. You guys, we literally help everybody, right? We work with investors, from the new investors to those seasoned operating investors who have multiple properties and they only are in a specific field. We also work with buyers, we work with sellers, we work with landlords, we work with tenants, we work with everyone. So if we're trying to communicate this to you, it's because we're literally experiencing everything that we're talking about in real time. And we're doing this to bring this information to you so that you can get it in real time. Because if you're connected to us in any way, it means that you want to do real estate. You absolutely need to come work with us, because clearly we are killing it out here. But it's also important for you to understand how to do real estate. I think that's the other thing, right? We watch Instagram, we watch social media, and we watch TV. We may have seen HGTV in some way, shape, or form, and it kind of showed you a way that real estate could be done, right? But we're doing it in real time every single day in this state. And I think it's important for you to listen to people who are doing this in real time and who can actually give you information and who can walk you from point A to point B, right? And to close, right? From point A to point close. That's what I should have said. It's really important that you understand how these things work, because they are going to impact you, whether you want to buy now or next year and in 2 years. These rules have changed as of today, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So it's really, really important that you guys take heed to what we're saying. Before we wrap up, is there anything else I'm missing today, ladies?
We dropped all the gems we had. I didn't want to give them.
We gave them everything but the kitchen sink. I'm just saying.
Yes.
All righty. So y'all, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to be with us today. We are so grateful that you all had the time to come out and hang out with us. There is a lot more that we can share. We will continue to share. We will continue to do this so that we can bring you the most up-to-date information that's happening in the real estate market and what our experiences are and the lay of the land. And maybe a little tidbit here or there. We also have vendors that we work with. And if you were here with us last week, you saw Juanita Dreyer, who's a title agent, and she's amazing. And so we do connect with vendors that are in the state and in other states all the time, and we'll do our best to bring them to you all so that you can continue to connect with us. So ladies, let the people know how they can get in touch with you if they want to do this.
Yes, if you want to get in touch with Deja Bailey, you can contact me on TikTok or Instagram via DM. My name is Deja View Homes, not Deja Vu, Deja View. And on Facebook, Deja Bailey, Realtor Associate. My phone number, if you want to reach out via call or text, is I was about to say my email, 862-858-2340. And my email is deja@dbrei.com. If there were any things that I said today that you have questions about and you didn't feel comfortable dropping it on the live chat, feel free to reach out to me directly. I answer my phone, text, emails. Just give me a ring and I'll be there for you. How about you, Jasmine?
Absolutely. You can reach out to me at Homes, HOMES, by Jasmine. That's JAZMYNE. Jasmine, like the flower. So you can reach me there. I'm there on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz. And you can reach out to me via email at Jasmine, JAZMYNE, @dbrei.com. And my phone number is 609-757-9388. Feel free to reach out for any questions you might have. You all also got a chance to hear from Provy, and you can reach out to Provy at PRUV_selling in J. Do follow her on all your social media platforms so that you can get connected with her. And she's also Pruvi, PRUVI at dbrei.com. So feel free to reach out to her so that you can get connected with her and do business. We definitely are looking to help you all close with ease. We want to make this as simple and as smooth as possible. Believe me, because we know real estate can be a headache. Thank you all for coming to check out with us today. We did chat about the NAR settlement, and tune in next week and we got some more goodies for you. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.